State of Georgia versus Travis McMichael, Greg McMichael, and William Roddy Bryan. I see Travis McMichael and Greg McMichael are available at the jail by video conference. Gentlemen, can you hear and see me and the rest of the participants? That's ominous. They're at the jail. Can anybody hear me at the jail?
Just a moment. Anybody here? Can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you.
So we're just making sure Travis McMichael and Greg McMichael again are present by video conference. Gentlemen, can you hear and see me and the participants?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Yeah, we'll go ahead and certify we are in compliance with the Uniform Superior Court rule. When we broke yesterday, if I remember correctly, the state had rested on its evidence.
Correct.
Since that time, anything the court needs to address from the state?
Not from the state.
Anything from Travis McMichael?
No, guys, we're ready to proceed, but we're going to have to defer to this vote at this time.
We're just preliminarily, Greg McMichael, we're ready to go?
We are, Your Honor.
All right. And on behalf of Mr. Bryan?
We're ready, Your Honor.
All right, that being the case, stay is rested. I understand Travis McMichael is deferring to Greg McMichael's counsel, so.
Just for one witness, Your Honor, Jeff Miller is in here virtually. He was waiting yesterday. So Mr. Rubin has agreed to let me take him virtually. Then we'll go back to the order and let Mr. Rubin and Travis McMichael's team handle the rest of their presentation of that.
And then we'll come back to Greg McMichael.
Will that work for the court?
That works for me. Anything from the state?
That's fine, Your Honor.
Very good. Mr. Miller, before we call you, can you see and hear me?
Can't hear him.
Great. All right, I think you're muted.
I was.
There we go. All right. Very good. Thank you. I call Jeff Miller as a witness for defendant Greg McMichael, and now you'll be sworn in, sir.
See the court. Let me go ahead and swear. Sir, can you see me?
Yes.
All right. Swear to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Miller, will you say your name, spell your last name?
It's Jeff Miller, M-I-L-L-E-R.
And you see me all right, Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, ma'am.
I can see that I'm very little on where my screen is, but you can see me?
Yes, ma'am.
What do you do for a living, sir?
I'm the director of certification training standards at Post Council.
How long have you been employed in that position?
In this position, a little better than 4 years.
What did you do before that job?
I was the auditor for 2 years here at Post.
And before that?
I worked as a police officer at Georgia College in Milledgeville.
So you yourself have been post certified, and now you are the director of certification for other officers.
Yes, ma'am.
And you may have said this, when did you become the director of certification at Post?
4 years ago.
How many police officers are certified as post-certified police officers in the state of Georgia right now?
Current numbers are just north of 57,000.
How do the training requirements work for Post? How does one remain certified once they've received a Post certification?
Once you're certified, there's an annual training requirement of 20 hours a year. that now include what we call the Governor's Initiative courses, which are firearms qualification, use of force training, de-escalation, and community policing.
When did those additional requirements specifying the type of training you must receive come into play?
I believe 2006 for the firearms qualification and use of force, and then the rest of those in 2017.
Now, most of us in this room now are lawyers, and for lawyers, we receive a piece of paper from our certifying agency, from the State Bar of Georgia. We receive a report at the end of every year telling us how much CLE, continuing legal education, the State Bar has in their system that we've completed that year. And then the lawyer has to sign and either agree that yes, that's correct, or try to get it fixed with the state so that you're notified if you're deficient or if you have more hours than you need. Is that how Post handles notifying officers about their current qualification, about whether they have complied with their training requirements for that year?
We have a database that is available to all officers in the state 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, so that they can check their training online. It's called the Post Data Gateway. They can check their training, as I said, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. At the end of the year, if they don't have their required training or the total 20 hours of the required training, they will get a notification. Let me back it up a bit. We actually send out warnings to the agencies starting in the fall with the deficiency report for the agency so that they know who still needs training. So at the end of the year, on January the 1st, we don't send out a notification, but if you are deficient, you have lost your arrest authority. At that time, you have the month of January to clear up that deficiency or on February 1st. We suspend your peace officer certification. You'll have no peace officer authority whatsoever.
What you just described, the Post Data Gateway system, when did that come into service?
2012.
Did you say 2012?
Yes, ma'am.
And the warning system that goes out, a letter at the end of every year, when did that come into play?
I believe they started sending letters out in 2013 because that would have been the first year. Well, it would have been in the fall of 2012, but I wasn't here then. I'm not sure exactly how it worked.
So your testimony is that before those years, you're not aware of any unified system of notifying officers of the training hours that Post has on record for them that year?
I'm not aware of any until we went computerized.
All right, very good.
But they still would have lost their peace officer certification, their arrest authority at that time.
But they should. So the expectation then is that each officer was keeping up with it on his own, his or her own.
Yes, ma'am, between the officer and the agency.
Now you have in front of you, I provided you with a certified copy, oddly enough, that would have come from your agency, of Greg McMichael's post-training records. Do you have that?
I mean, I can pull it up.
Okay, did I provide that to you as well in an email?
Yes, ma'am.
So you understand we're here in a bond hearing for Mr. McMichael, and the state has brought to the court's attention issues having to deal with two instances where Greg McMichael was deficient in training and received a waiver, and 1 year where he accepted a suspension so he could just work out to the end of his career at the district attorney's office. So let's, if you would you tell the court what you see in your system with respect to the deficiency and then the waivers in those two instances?
Well, we have it here off of the issue paper for one of his training waivers, and it lists it all right here. It says on March 7th, 2001, Gregory McMichael was granted a training waiver for calendar year 1997. This waiver was approved at that time, so he had a training deficiency at that point. That was his first. The second one, he was notified on April 15th, and I'm not sure exactly what that notification was. It says an email was sent and received by the agency, notifying him of another training deficiency.
And I'm sorry, Mr. Miller, did you say what year you're talking about now? When you say an April 15th email, April 15th of what year?
2014.
All right.
It says on April 23rd, 2014, Post staff received a request for waiver of the 20-hour annual training requirement for 2006 firearms qualification and use of deadly force for 2007. 20 hours including firearms requal and use of deadly force. 2009 firearms requal and use of deadly force, and 2010 annual training from McMichael. Upon review of the records, it was determined that McMichael had previously been issued a waiver, so that made it his second waiver, and he had to appear before council to get that.
And when you talk about a waiver, can you explain what would enable a person to get a waiver of losing their post certification if they had a deficiency in any given year?
Excuse me. Training waivers are what we use to move the hours back in time to the deficient year. So if he had a medical waiver, which is what it lists there, he would have missed training due to a medical reason, sending in documents stating that and showing the dates, and they would have issued him a waiver. He would have had to make up the training if he didn't have enough already in his history at that time, which looks like he did. So he would have applied for that medical waiver, and we would have moved those hours back in time to those years of deficiencies.
And you noted that you think there's an email that was sent out in April of 2014 notifying Mr. McMichael of those deficiencies in the year 2006, 7, and I can't remember the other year. And the email itself, and I have spoken about this. Do you have that email?
I think it's in the stuff you gave me. Let's see if I can pull it up. Let's see. I have it here.
An email from whom to whom?
It says from Mark Melton to Jackie Johnson
All right.
on
So,
April 15th.
yeah, take a look at that. I think you may, either my question isn't making sense, or I was thinking that's how you were coming up with that. The email from Mark Melton, and do you understand who Mark Melton is in that email?
He's one of the investigators for the Judicial Circuit, if I'm not mistaken.
All right, and he is notifying you through the District Attorney Jackie Johnson that he is authorized by the District Attorney to work with you to discuss the status of the training credits and post-certification for Greg McMichael.
Actually, the email you're referring to is from Jackie to Mark, and it looks like it went to Mitch Jones, was the former director here when this was going on. Please be advised that Greg McMichael is employed as an investigator. I hereby authorize Mark Melton, also an investigator from my office, to access and discuss the status of post-certification and training credits for Greg McMichael.
All right, well, let's clear this up, but let me ask it this way.
Okay?
Did you go through your records to try to figure out how Greg McMichael was notified in 2014 that he had a deficiency in 2006 and 7 and those other years? Once Post in 2014 started going through old records and discovered this, were you able to find any letter email, phone record that told us exactly the date someone from Post notified Greg McMichael of those deficiencies in 2014?
What I have here is an email from Mark Melton to Jackie Johnson titled Post a Notification that refers to speaking to Mitch Jones on April the 11th of 2014. Said he advised me, and I confirmed by reviewing the training records of Greg McMichael that Greg is deficient in training hours for the years of 2005, 6, 7, 9, and 10.
All right, so
That's
that's
the
the,
only,
I'm sorry, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry,
Go ahead.
that's the only thing I have in that line.
All right, so the only thing that the Post records have is not any notices from Post to Greg in 2006, 2007, 2008, 2009, 10, 11, 12, 13. No notices to Greg McMichael from Post in those years saying, buddy, you are deficient. But the first notification you see is Greg McMichael having advised his boss, Jackie Johnson, that he received some notice that he's deficient in his training.
That is correct, and that would probably be the way it was back then because, again, you didn't have the system to track the training, so it would have come up as something perhaps, and I don't know what the exact cause was. Maybe Mr. McMichael was trying a new C11, going to work with another agency or something that put him on the radar here, so when whoever looked at his records saw the deficiency and would notify him.
All right. And would you agree with me that if Mr. McMichael had received a notification from Post and just ignored it, blew it off, that the likelihood of him being granted a waiver for those hours is almost unthinkable?
Yeah, the Post Council, which I'm a member of the staff, the voting members of the Post Council take the training very seriously. Training deficiencies, especially early on, were frowned upon dramatically. So if he had blown it off, not made any attempt to correct the situation, I'm sure they would have reacted harshly.
And those decisions about waivers and giving a waiver are controlled by your regulations. In fact, Regulation 464-18.02. That's correct?
464-1802. I'm going to have to look up.
All right. Well, would you agree with me? I'm looking at it here, but that these are controlled by regulations. These are not just internal willy-nilly policies that can change from administrator to administrator. You agree it's regulation?
That is correct. There are Post rules which carry the weight of the law in this state.
And would you also agree with me that in order to get a waiver, you must have good cause shown that would enable Post to exercise their discretion to give an individual a waiver, meaning you've shown good cause, you also have the hours that you've taken after the fact that can be moved back and given you a waiver for your certification.
Yes, ma'am.
I have no more questions.
Anything from the staff? Briefly. Again, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
This is Jesse Evans. We spoke earlier. Can you see me at the podium?
Yes.
Okay, great. So you inherited the directorship of Post, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
You do not know defendant Greg McMichael personally or professionally?
No, sir.
The records that we're largely referring to were actually generated prior to you taking the helm, for lack of a better term, of Post. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir.
Who was your predecessor in terms of directorship at Post?
His name is Mitch Jones.
Great. And you had mentioned this, and I think it bears repeating, that training is taken extremely seriously by Post. That is a state mandate, correct?
Yes, sir.
And the failure to get training leads to suspension, accurate?
Yes, sir. After 2012, it leads to suspension. Prior to 2012, we didn't suspend for that.
Okay. And there is a notification process in place, at least now, for letting people know about their post-training, correct?
Yes, sir.
Do you happen to know what that notification process was prior to you taking the helm?
I mean, it's been pretty much the same since I've been here. I got here in 2014. The system was set up in 2012.
All right. I assume that there was some way of documenting and notifying people that they were deficient in their training even before the email system and the gateway that you've talked about. Is that correct?
That I can't speak to. Like I say, it probably have been seen a red flag from something where somebody would have said, hey, I don't think John Smith got his training. Can you check it? Maybe an agency would call. Or if, say, for instance, we're going to change jobs and we had to look you up to make sure your certification looks good, then our certification specialists are trained, first of all, to check for any training deficiency the person may have.
Can you see the screen that I'm sharing with everyone now involving these records, and can you confirm that what I'm looking at here, which is the state's exhibit involving the records, you've seen this stuff? I sent this to you.
Yes, sir.
And at the top of these records from June of 2014, there is a letter from the district attorney for the Brunswick Judicial Circuit to Post, correct?
Yes, sir.
And can you see this portion here, starting with, this situation has been a great embarrassment to me and to this office. It has impacted the office.
Your Honor, that's not reading it. It says this situation has been a great embarrassment to me and to Investigator McMichael, not to my office.
I'll continue on. It has negatively impacted my office, and I've taken measures to ensure this doesn't happen again. Do you see that?
Yes, sir.
This is page 13 of those records. Are you able to still see this screen capture?
Yes, sir.
This is a memo to file that was submitted to you. Do you recognize that as part of your post records? It's the 13th
Yes, sir.
page back. Okay. And referring to Greg McMichael's, he being the he, if you can see where my cursor is, he knew that he had been behind in his hours, but recently discovered he had no arrest powers since January of 2006. Do you see that?
Yes, sir.
And the date of this memo, can you confirm on the top line what that date is?
It says on Thursday, April 10th, 2014.
All right, so we're talking 2006 to 2014.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to scroll down to page 19. Do you...
I'm sorry. I thought I had the ringer turned off on this thing. It's just going crazy. I'll tell you what I'll do.
We can blame coronavirus. It's affecting everything.
Yeah. It won't ring now. Sorry about that.
All right, sir. Now I've scrolled down to 19. Do you see this email correspondence from the district attorney to Mark Melton, who I think you've identified as was he an investigator? Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And specifically, I'm sorry, this is from Mark Melton to the district attorney. I think I misstated that. You see who the email correspondence is from and to.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and what's the date?
April 15th, 2014.
And then this line that I'm highlighting here, can you confirm what the deficient hours were for Mr. McMichael?
Well, for multiple years, that's what the numbers in parentheses behind each year is referring to. In 2005, he missed 8. 2006 and 7, he missed, looks like all 20. 2009, he missed 17 hours. In 2010, he missed 1. Of these hours, it says it is mandated that the officer have firearms qualification and use of deadly force. So in that total of those hours that are missing, some of it was the firearms and the deadly force.
Use of deadly force training. And
Yes.
then go back to this first letter. What's the date of that letter from the district attorney asking for a waiver? Can you see the date at the top of this letter from the DA's office?
That says June 17th, 2014.
Okay.
And that looks like it's a thank you for helping with the waiver. So that would have been after the council meeting that granted the waiver.
Can you confirm, sir, that you can now see the rest of us in the courtroom?
Yes, sir.
All right. Judge, I believe that's all I have.
No more questions, may we release him?
Thank you, sir. You are released.
Thank you.
And with that, I'll hand it back to Mr. Rubin, and then we'll deal with any rebuttal exhibits after this.
So we're back to the Travis McMichael's report call.
Yes, sir. Good morning, Your Honor. Your Honor, at this time, we would tender into evidence Defendant's Exhibit number 32. I believe I have the number correct. And that is a flash drive that I provided a copy of to Mr. Evans and Ms. Tonkowski, and I believe a copy to the court. I've renumbered some of the individual items so that if the court wants to, we can go through it one by one. If Mr. Evans wants to, we can go through it one by one.
The state objects. This is the subject of a motion in limine that was filed and argued yesterday, involving, among other things, character of the victim and irrelevant evidence.
So I think we should go through it one by one. Because not all of it was ruled on yesterday. That's fine. If I could just plug it in. Told me yesterday. I clicked that. Oh, there it is. Yes. So the court can see it and Mr. Evans can see it.
I made it fold. It was folded.
That one?
No.
Okay. Yeah.
It's right there. It's this one right here.
Oh, there you go. There's that one. Okay.
Now, the missing step, if I can interject, I'm sorry, is you see the box that needs to be clicked. System audio, that's it. That's the one I was hearing.
I don't plan on playing any audio at this point, Your Honor.
If you don't do it, the judge is not going to be able to see it.
Oh.
That's simple as understanding.
Okay. So you just clicked on it, Mr. Hood, right?
I did. That is correct.
And then, where do I go from here?
You want your background first. Then your quote. Now, here's the video.
Yep.
If you'll, can I assist to speed things along?
Absolutely.
If you'll click the left-hand box.
This one?
Yes, sir.
That.
Great.
No.
No,
That's not mine.
I see it now.
Yeah. All right, there you go. Court can see that.
See that, my name on it.
You remain, I'm sorry. All right, and the exhibit itself is 32, Travis McMichael 32. They're listed in with an A or A through Z and then double A to some double number, double letter. I'm going to skip around a little bit in compliance with the court's rulings yesterday. So I would start with number F, or letter F, which are the Satilla Shores Facebook page notes printed out.
Add some articulation of how that's relevant to obstruction, risk of flight, danger to the community, influencing witness, those kind of things. The 4 factors the court must consider, then I would say irrelevant and I object.
Okay. The second one is letters HH. It's a CAD detail report from July 13th, 2019. It's a call Greg McMichael made to the Glenn County Police regarding a person he suspected as being responsible for break-ins in Satilla Shores.
Again, irrelevant to the factors that this court must consider in this bond hearing, which are the 4 IAL factors. So that's a totally separate date, has nothing to do with even their client. This is Greg McMichael. How that impacts dangerousness, risk of obstruction, risk of flight, those types of things, I don't see how it's relevant.
Wrap all that up.
And it's all part of a continuing chain of events, so yes. The next one, Your Honor, is letter L, October 25th, 2019. It is a CAD report, a 911 call, and a transcript of the 911 call.
Same objection.
The next one, Your Honor, is letter M. This is the first one. L was a call by Larry English regarding a break-in into his home. M is also a call by Larry English on November 17th, 2019. 911 call, CAD report, and transcript.
Same objection.
Letter N is a call the very next day by Larry English, dated November 18th, 2019. CAD detail report, 911 call, and transcript.
Same objection. I can't see N, by the way.
You can't see it on the...
Not on my screen here, but anyway, same
Yeah.
objection.
Let me just make sure so the court can see it. Can you see it now?
I see it on your screen. Yes, sir.
Okay. The next, Your Honor, is letter O. It is dated December 1st, 2019. It is a call by Larry English to Glenn County Police, also regarding suspect in break-ins, CAD detail report, transcript, and 911 call.
Same objection.
Next, Your Honor, is letters BB. B as in boy. It is a January 1st police report. That is the date of the incident in which Travis McMichael's truck was broken into and his weapon was stolen. This is his 911 call, not 911 call, but his report of the stolen weapon to the Glenn County Police and their response and report.
Well, what that has to do, same objection, Judge. 4 factors we're considering. I don't know that has to do with any of those factors.
It's been discussed already.
It's been discussed already. In fact, the state put in a Facebook post, I believe, in which letter C is next, Your Honor. It's a February 11, 2020 CAD detail report, transcript, and CAD detail report, transcript, 911 call. This is the call in which Travis McMichael actually encountered Ahmaud Arbery at 8 o'clock on a dark night on Larry